Nice.
Yeah. So, well, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting into your life as a burnout recovery coach and an author and a keynote speaker.
Hmm.
So, thank you so much for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. For
So,
sure.
let's begin the conversation with, I know we're all getting tired of COVID and
Yeah.
talking about it, but it was such a momentous thing for all of us
Yeah.
to survive this pandemic. It affected so much. How did you make it through that time period, and how has it changed the way that you do things now?
Well, I burned out like most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went from, well, my COVID story is a little bit unique because my husband and I were scheduled to get married 32 days after the initial first 2 week shutdown. So, it was like March 13th, I think, or maybe the 14th when that happened.
Uh-huh.
Um, the governor sends out, you know, whatever they're called, some sort of electoral whatever. And then the next email I get is from the wedding venue coordinator. Everything's been canceled. Please rearrange your wedding. And I'm from the Midwest. I have huge families. I've got like, I don't know, maybe 50 cousins. I've lost count because um, my cousins are married, and then I know my second cousins and their kids and the kids and the kids, and so we just call everybody a cousin. But it was a destination wedding in Sedona, so we had like a party on Friday when everyone got there, caravanned up to Sedona on Saturday, had a big picnic all booked out with like 100 people coming. The wedding was on Sunday. Everything got canceled. And the tricky part was we the wedding venue didn't let us out of the contract. So I had to keep postponing, I had to keep rescheduling and replanning. So meanwhile, my husband has kids with from a previous marriage. And so his youngest was 3 years old, and my living room turned into a makeshift preschool with like the red light, green light guy. And um, we were buying computers like everybody else and making sure kids were going to school online. And so I went from being an entrepreneur to a stay-at-home mom in uh, one of million brides devastated because their dream wedding got crapped on. So
Yeah.
my COVID story is very unique, but not unique in the sense of, I wasn't affected or I had any different impact than anybody else. But I did have COVID a couple of times, as did my husband and the kids. But once we kind of maneuvered all that and we did get married outside, we had people on Zoom, which is wild. I still
Yeah.
can't believe, like, if you would have told me when I was, 25 that I was going to be married online with 100 people watching us and having to remind people to mute themselves, I wouldn't believe you.
Yeah. For sure.
um, what's fascinating is I I've been in the burnout space for a decade now. I say a lot of times that I burned out before burnout became a buzzword. And back when I was my early 30s, the only people talking about burnout was Ariana Huffington. And so I had to piecemeal my own recovery. I had to do research on my own and figure out what burnout was really all about and what helped me recover back in 2014, 2015. So when COVID happened, I knew I was burnt out. I knew I was having to like work on my nervous system. So I was doing the regulatory skills that I knew, but I was also depressed from the wedding fiasco. So um, yeah, I mean, I hodgepodge that the best I could and
Yeah.
grateful that it's over.
Yeah. I actually went to a wedding on the 14th of March. And when I look back on it, I was like, that was the perfect time to do it because it was like right before the world shut down.
Yeah.
Because still remember that day going to the mall and we had to get something there. And everything was just weird and spooky because the 13th, it was Friday the 13th, but everything was shut down. So yeah, and the couple went to Ireland for their honeymoon and they weren't going to stop. And of course, everything was shut down and weird. And internationally, you had a window that you had to get back home. So it was like, man, there were so many things that were just
Yeah.
weird at that time. And I think that there's a certain amount of it that was so odd and traumatic that maybe we forgot, or it all blended together, you
Hmm.
know? So,
Yeah,
um,
we it was just nuts. The wedding business boomed during that time.
yeah,
And like people, the concept of micro weddings came up where it was literally 10 people or less.
yeah,
So we had, I just couldn't, I mean, I was living with my husband at the time. So we had two homes. His home closed the day the shutdown happened.
wow,
Talk about, I mean, that was God sent, right? That's
yeah,
like a blessing in disguise. We all move into my place, and I'm in this two-bedroom, small 1,500 square foot place. And that original plan was sell his house, move into my place, sell my place, take whatever we get from the wedding and the sale of the home, buy our own place. But then the market went nuts during COVID. If you remember, I don't know what it was like that there, but here it went
yeah,
nuts.
yeah,
Um, we couldn't find a place to live, so we were renting for a few years. And we finally found our place September of 2023. And then my husband is diagnosed with cancer 6 weeks later. So it was like we went from wedding shenanigans. I say COVID to cancer in 3 years. We went from wedding shenanigans, COVID, the marketplace being ridiculous, to cancer and stepping into caregiving and advocating for him. And I was back in burnout. So it's been a long stretch of really looking at my self-care, my nervous system, what I need to do to stay healthy. And of course, during all of that, I caught COVID again.
yeah, yeah,
Being in the hospital, you're guaranteed to get sick.
yeah, for sure. So let's get to the heart and soul here in 2024 of what you do on a daily basis. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day. And one of the curious kids asks you, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do
Hmm.
you answer them?
I tell stories.
Okay.
I tell stories for a living. I write my stories. I read other people's stories. I help people get up on stage and tell stories. We write it in a book. We do this on, podcast. I'm a storyteller, professional storyteller, have been for about 30 years.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
When I was in third grade, I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be Janet Jackson's background dancer.
So how did this happen? Take me back to your Midwest roots, the beginnings of your life. What were the foundational seeds that were planted into you that have helped people speak in front of audiences and help them get to where they need to be?
Well, I've always been creative. I've always been really supported in like expressing myself, going out and, sharing. I'm a highly empathetic person. And so when I was a kid, it was always like, oh, you're just sharing too much, you're just feeling too much. Um, but I was never given those proper tools to, know how to manage that. And I've been 5'9" pretty much all my life. I was the tallest kid in elementary school. When we played basketball, I was the big guy in the middle with like, I was on all boy teams before COVID was a thing. Uh, and I was bullied as a result of not really fitting in. So, but I was a dancer, musician. Was, I played the trumpet, I played the piano, I was always on a dance squad somewhere. So very expressive. Uh, I went to college thinking I wanted to change the way girls treated girls, women treated women, the way that, like providing some tools and stuff for girls to understand how to support one another, communicate with one another. So I started going into psychology and got into social psych. And we had to study these really horrific cases from like the 70s in New York City where like the most awful things happened and cops would interview like 50 people and everyone saw it, but no one called them. And I was like, yeah, I can't make a living out of this. I can't do this. But I can still follow this concept of how do we communicate better? How do we support one another? I can share stories, I can write stories, and I can be part of the industry that shares where the spotlight landed. So I got into journalism. And I've been doing that since I was 19. Uh, I have a journalistic background. I moved into essay writing and that publicity, website development. And over the years, as the industry sort of changed, I found that I'm not really a journalist. I am a true storyteller where I want to be as incredibly creative as I can. And I'm definitely more on that creative nonfiction side. I want the liberty to be able to take 3 pages to say one sentence if I need to. And um, so I've been doing that ever since. I did create a nonprofit a while ago, going back to that concept of how do we change how girls treat girls and women treat women. I created a nonprofit. It was a bullying solutions organization. It grew nationally. We focused on creative arts. And in between teaching girls dance steps or giving them arts and crafts to share, to create a vision board for themselves, we would talk about friendships and bullying and peer pressure. And um, that caught on and it grew really quickly. Uh, so quickly, in fact, I was not prepared for the demand. And this was right after Michelle Obama launched stopbullying.gov. And
Yeah,
my, little small organization blew up nationally and I burned out as a result. But storytelling has always been there for me. It's always been the thing that I can use to heal myself, express myself, move my life forward, help other people see things about their lives that they may not see. And I think it's an incredibly powerful tool that we all have access to, and it makes the world go round.
certainly does. Who's your favorite storyteller?
The good one. I always lean into a storyteller named Janet Ivanovich.
Yeah,
She's super fun. She's very funny. She's got this dry sense of humor, which I think is really hard to pull off.
yeah.
Um, so for fiction, I would say Janet Ivanovich. Uh, Nonfiction, that's really hard. I have so many. And what, you know, I'm a nonfiction writer, right? And I've written a number of books, and my work has always been compared to really big New York Times bestselling authors. And so I study them. And so now when I'm talking to an agent and they'll like, I can't, I can't take you on as a client because you don't have 100,000 followers, but your work is exactly like, and they'll name a big time author like Glennon Doyle. I love her work. I study it though, because it's like, what is she doing that I'm not? And our work is very parallel in terms of our style of writing, but she has millions of followers and I don't. And so it's been an uphill battle for me to make waves in my with my storytelling career. And I do everything I can to kind of break that door open.
Yeah, yeah. So, who's been a hero for you? Who's been an inspiration for you in your life, whether it's personally or in your work? Who has that been for you?
I have a number of them. My parents have always been really supportive. My dad is, super successful in his career, and we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. He's super analytical, very detail oriented, very focused. Um, and I'm the creative person, right? My head's in the clouds a lot, and he's very grounded. Uh, and so he would always be like, if I had what you had, I would run after it with everything you've got. And I think you're doing great. And he's always been really supportive there. Um, I have a number of uh, business supporters, that have really supported me over the years. One, a business coach of mine, Johanna Gardner, just absolutely supportive. And so the concept of hero, it's really like helping me on the day to day, inspiring me when I need inspiration, not necessarily leading in not necessarily out in front of me. I look at that more as like who's in the trenches with me. And
So,
that's
what's the
what she does.
yeah, what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Don't forget to celebrate the small stuff.
Yeah,
The small stuff are the things that lead to the big stuff.
yeah.
And so I do, like if I get a small win or, like something silly like I'll set a goal for myself like trying to gain 50 followers or something because the platform for writers is a really big thing, um, I'll celebrate it.
Yeah.
When I was running the nonprofit, if we got a success story, it was like the biggest deal. Um, Getting a new review on one of my books, the biggest deal. And it's not something that may be really big for anybody else, but I've learned as a burnout, if I don't stop and slow down and celebrate those small details, no one else will.
Yeah. So what's the best speech you've ever seen? You've ever witnessed?
Hmm. Have you ever seen the one? He's a military guy. He's high up in the ranks, and he's delivering this speech about, 10 things to do to set yourself up for success. And he says the first thing you should do every day is make your bed.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because if you have a really crappy day, you come home and at least you've made your bed and you've got that one thing.
Yeah.
I listen to that a lot.
That's great. I need to find that because that's a part of my life. I believe in that very, very ardently. So, what is your motivation to do all of these things you do? There's so much going on in your life. What's the motivation to help people and to also evolve and grow as a person yourself?
Well, like I said, I'm a highly empathetic person. I have a really strong foundation, highly, intuitive. I listen to that intuitive nudge. I have a meditation practice. I do pray, I talk to God, and I believe that I was given this gift. This is a God-given gift. And if I can leave the world a little bit better, that is my obligation as a human being. And so I think, you know, my gift in the storytelling space is so unique. It's mine. No one else can do it. No, they can do their own thing, but they can't do it the way I can. And I don't want to take that for granted. And so I'll get up in the morning, I'll do my self-care things that I'm going to do and sit down and journal or pray or whatever it is I'm going to do that day. And I just open myself up and I think or feel, right, what do I need to do today in order to feel accomplished by the end of the day? And I follow that guidance. So, like yesterday, I'm ghostwriting a book for a client and I worked on his book for 8 hours. That's all I did. And that felt so good. And I felt so successful. And today I'm going to play. I'm not doing anything today, but hanging out with the kids and enjoying a Friday. And I'm hoping that I feel just as successful at the end
Yeah.
of today. So it really is just listening to my intuition and going with where I feel I'm best led.
So, of everything that you've done and accomplished in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Keeping my husband alive. It was
Yeah.
pretty grueling.
Yeah.
I wrote about the experience. I think caregiving in America is at an absolute crisis. I don't feel like there's adequate um, light on it, on what it was nuts. And, something has to change. But if the difference between burnout and caregiving burnout comes down to legitimate life or death. And if I stopped caring for him, if I stopped advocating for him, he would have died.
Yeah.
I'm most proud of that. He's still walking the earth.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, all of your readers, but you run the show. What's
Mhm.
your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh my goodness. I love this. Um, I think I'm a kind, caring woman, just piecing it together day by day. I
So
say a
let,
lot that, oh, sorry.
yeah, no, no, you're good. Go ahead.
I say a lot that I live my life partly by manifesting it and partly by winging it.
Yeah.
And, I've let go of you know, going back to your other question, I really am proud of the fact that I have stopped trying to control the outcomes of my life because I realized that I can't do that after so many bouts of burnout and, nearly losing my husband and having to drop everything during so many, you know, critical moments between COVID and cancer. Um, I can't control anything. And so that's who I am now. I'm the woman who's just happy to be hanging out and moving through day to day.
So let's say we get off the call, time machine pulls up in front of your house. You can go back in the history of time and see one event with your own eyes. Where are you going to go?
Hmm. I would like to see um, I Have a Dream.
Yeah, yeah,
That would have been cool.
for sure. So if anyone wants to indulge in your books, they want to reach out, hire you, any of the good business in your world, where's the best place for them to go?
CarrieSeverson.com.
Okay. One stop shop. Carrie, this has
Yeah.
been wonderful. Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for your
much.
story. Thank
I
you for your
appreciate
time.
it.
Best of luck
Yeah.
with everything.